What's good, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Box Breaks. We're going to do something kind of like what we did a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk about deck building. We're going to talk about maybe another way to deck build. We did talk about last time about getting a pre-con and then basically kind of souping up the pre-con, adding some better cards in. Almost always you start with making a better mana base, and you just kind of like streamline what a deck does. Today we're going to talk about the idea of melding precons. Yep, that is an option. What's going on, Lloyd? And so today we're going to open up two precons. We're going to open up the Lorehold Legacies from Strixhaven School of Mages. We're going to open up Phyrexia All Will Be One Rebellion Rising deck. If you know both those decks, you know those are both Boros decks. They're both kind of like tokens matter decks. And so we're going to talk about how you can take decks that are similar and meld them together and see what the result is. We're also going to talk about a cool event coming up at Comix this weekend. And we're going to open some draft boosters from Commander Masters along with, that's right, the oft sought after collector booster sample pack out of the Phyrexia All Will Be One. Maybe we'll have a big hit out of that. Only time will tell. Let's get into it. Before we get going too far, we are going to get some business out of the way here up front. And so in order to do that, we are going to switch screens immediately and go to our giveaway screen. We have a coin flip today. We have Hyper Goober and Mrs. Kimberly, potential winners for today. And the winner is Hyper Goober. Congratulations. All you need to do, Hyper Goober, is to pick between the colors we have here on, we have white, green, red, pink, orange, blue, yellow, and purple. And then you're going to choose A or B. So whichever one you want, A or B, out of that color. And then whatever is there will be waiting for you at Comix Cafe probably at the end of the week, unless you get back really quickly to me. But check it out. All right, so we're going to save these draft boosters till later. We're going to talk a little bit about what is in a pre-con commander deck. This is the Lorehold Legacy deck. It does come with kind of an insert that explains what the deck is, kind of the mentality behind the deck, the style, and whatnot. We're just going to go ahead and pull out the box for this. There are some other things inside. Inside the Phyrexia All Will Be One deck box as well, but we're not going to get into that. So there's the two decks. We're going to pull out that sample pack that will go along with our breaks there at the end. But we have now in front of us two pre-con, but both Boros commander decks. And so one of the things that I've enjoyed in the past is taking a couple of decks that are similar, or maybe they share, like they're 3-color decks, but they share 2 colors between them, and taking those and trying to make a new deck out of those. So that's what we're going to take a look at doing today. We're going to talk about some of the things you might look at. We're not going to go through and do the entire reconstruction of the deck. We're just going to talk about the things you're going to want to pay attention to if you're going to do something like this. Now, this is not to say that a pre-con deck in and of itself, by itself, just sleeved up and ready to play is not a good thing. Matter of fact, it would be a really good thing to have a pre-con deck on hand this weekend. So at Comix, we are doing, it's a Doctor Who Commander tournament. And so you might say, Commander tournament? That sounds weird. No, you can't bring a constructed Commander deck, like your own construction Commander deck. You have to bring a pre-con. And so, perhaps you have one of these precons on hand and you might bring it out and play. The winner gets a commander deck, a precon commander deck of the Doctor Who set. And I don't know if you've looked at any of the kind of the spoilers. I know Prof got to do a spoiler on one of the decks. They look really, really cool. I've seen some gameplay. I think Prof also did on Shuffle Up and Play. They each took one of the decks and kind of made it their own. So they're very nice. They're very interesting decks. I know that my oldest would be very interested in a particular dinosaur that appears in one of those decks. So if you get that deck and you choose not to play with the Dino, I know someone who would love to give it a brand new home. But anyway, so that tournament is happening this weekend on Saturday. It's $20 entry, and you can walk away with a brand new Doctor Who Commander deck, which is kind of neat. But you have to have a pre-con stock deck, the way it comes. Obviously, you'll have it sleeved and whatnot. So one of the first things that I think about, so we're going to go ahead and pull out the potential commanders. So every deck that you get as far as a pre-con deck will have at least 2 potential commanders, if not 3. Used to be 3 was just kind of the norm. I'm kind of looking through. I didn't really do a lot of research ahead of time because I wanted to kind of go into this cold and kind of show you what this process actually might look like whenever you are doing this for the first time. Okay, there's another legendary. All right, so we do have at least 3 potential commanders. Now, the other thing I want to pull out is the mana base. So obviously you have lots of commons, not commons, you have lots of basic lands. So not as concerned about that as I am about the non-basics that come with it. So we're going to look at those in both of these decks just to talk a little bit about mana bases and how important they are. Some pre-cons just admittedly come with a much better kind of initial mana base. Some are just absolutely terrible. One of the things you'll notice when you're doing, especially if the decks that you are combining, if they have the same exact color identity, so this one being white-red, you're going to have a lot of the same staple cards, which you might go, oh, that feels bad. But actually, I would argue that it actually makes that deck construction a lot easier. So if it appears in both decks, chances are you probably want to keep it in the decks. You don't want to cut it from the decks themselves. Now, if it appears in one of the decks or the other, that's where I feel like you're going to have more of a difficult decision. And a lot of that will have to do with the direction of the deck itself. Some decks want to do certain things. I feel like I'm missing. Yeah, I did. I went right over a couple of the lands in this deck. Make sure I didn't miss any others. I don't think I did. Oh, I did. 2 more. The lands in this one were much more dispersed throughout the deck than the one from Phyrexia. The Strixhaven one was much more dispersed. So you pull out your commanders, your potential commanders. You pull out your mana bases. I believe that's where you should always start. And so when you're looking at commanders, then you got to say, okay, what do these commanders want to do, and which one of these goes with kind of what I want to do? Okay, both these decks are admittedly tokens matters decks. Okay, so you got your original, the kind of the front commander for the Strixhaven deck. He's vigilant. You can sack an artifact. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So that's good if you want to be able to just auto buff creatures. That's tap 1 and do that. You can tap X and tap this and exile an artifact card with mana value X from your graveyard, and then you can create 2 tokens that are copies of the exiled card. Which can be really good because your tokens, you can actually create tokens of artifacts. The front commander for the Phyrexia All Will Be One deck is Naali. And attacking tokens you control have double strike. Seems good. Whenever 1 or more tokens you control attack a player, exile the top card of your library. During any turn you may attack... any turn you attacked with a token, you may play that card. So it gives you a little bit more kind of speed in being able to play spells. So both these like tokens. This one likes creature tokens. This one likes artifact tokens. So they're going to be different. And you could, in theory, put those together. You go through here again. So the secondary commanders for the Phyrexia deck, Flying Lifelink Haste. Whenever Otari's Sun's Glory attacks, you get an experience counter. Then create a 2/2 red rebel creature token that's tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have. So it's a way to put a lot of tokens on the field at once, potentially. And then the other one is a melee creature, which is an ability that is whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked this combat. So it encourages you to spread out your attacks. If you're playing a pot of 4, you're going to want to get +1 3 times, which means you're attacking everybody, which I find is a bad tactic. For some reason, I feel like every time I try to spread out my attacks, I garner the ire and hatred of everyone at the table, and everybody's like, I will get you. So I feel like you're better off picking somebody. So I don't know if this would go with the way that I would like to play. Now, with the second ability, though, other creatures you control have melee. So all of your stuff getting that buff could be a way for you to not... I mean, you're hitting everybody, but everybody's getting 3 more per creature than you thought. Yeah, combo is such a big deal in Commander. You're exactly right, Lloyd. Don't give anybody a chance to be angry. Just win. And then, well, that's not entirely true. So if you play with those people a second game, then you have the carryover anger from the previous game, which is why you carry multiple decks. You go, oh, well, I won't play that deck anymore, assuming that the next one you play actually will not have combo in it as well. Longer you play with a group of people, the more they know what's coming. Yeah, then you become arch enemy, which is fine. I actually... If I'm playing well enough that I become arch enemy, I'm actually good with it. It's when I don't deserve it it gets annoying. Anyway, I try not to get in my feels when I play commander. The secondary commander, the 2 alternate commanders for the Strixhaven deck. So this one is first strike. Creatures you control get +3/+0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Okay, so you're going to kind of get the same buff as Adriana, because it gives all the creatures you control +3/+0. But you just have to have that threshold of having 3 artifacts. And then Alabu, Ancient Witness, other artifact creatures you control have haste. And whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control attack, Alabu, Ancient Witness deals X damage to any target and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control. Okay, so if you're not a fan, so I would say, for me, I like the idea of equipment, of kind of Tron, like getting one creature buffed and really big, and then swinging in and trying to win quickly in that way. And so if I was looking at this, if there was somebody in this set of cards that looked like it'd be a Tron commander, I think you have a couple options that I feel like would really work. I think the Othari, Sun's Glory, is interesting just because it's a flying lifelink haste creature. And if you could just, put a bunch of stuff on that, then it would work really well. Also, Jor-Kadeen would also be fun. He's a first strike. Gives all your creatures +3/+0 if you decide to go wide with your attack. I'm probably, if I'm admitting it kind of up front here, I'm probably picking the 2 commanders that most people probably wouldn't pick. And that kind of goes with the way I like to build decks. I want to build the unlikely deck. I don't want to build the one that everyone expects. So, and that goes more to my style. That may not be your style. You may want to build, the most powerful deck. So, the other thing you want to take a look at immediately before you start cutting cards, choosing cards to put in, choosing cards to leave out, is checking out the mana base. So obviously both of these decks, to a degree, care about artifacts. Really, the Strixhaven deck cares more about artifacts. So it has a cycle of the artifact lands, both the red, the white, and the colorless artifact lands. So if you have those 3 out, you already have 3 artifacts in play. And they're essentially, because they're land, they're 0 cost, which is kind of cool. But all the other lands, so anytime a land is a tap land and it doesn't provide you more than one, or if it doesn't provide you all the colors you need in your deck, then I probably would try to find a way to not include that. You have the castle lands in this deck, which will create tokens, which this deck really likes to have, or buffs. And so that's a really good kind of piece to add. But you also have, there's more than one way to put tokens into play. There's also a bunch of different, there's the cycling lands are in here. But again, you're going to go through and you're going to notice, okay, so there's a command tower in both decks. There's a Temple of the False God in both decks. There's a Myriad Landscape in both decks. So you're going to be able to kind of pare that down in that way. But here's the thing. I would rather play a basic land than a land that produces 1 mana and comes into play tapped, but lets me scry 1, or lets me gain 1 life. Maybe I'm weird in that way, but I would just say, think about your mana base, because your mana base actually will help the tempo of your entire deck. I know sometimes we look at mana, especially newer players look at mana as kind of an afterthought. Even to the point where you're building a deck and go, oh, I really want to put this deck in. I'll just pull a basic land, thinking, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But you throw a basic land out of the deck, and then you put this really cool card that you like. But chances are, if your mana base is off, you're never going to get to play that cool card in the first place. So, the last thing I would look at, and again, we're not going to do that right now, but go through, and once you've figured out what commander you want, and therefore kind of what you want your deck to do, and you've looked at both. I would encourage you, if you're going to go out and buy commander decks, go out and look at, I think green is strong right now for sure. Green has been something that's gained a lot of support. It's amazing how much more powerful white is now. White has gained so much support in the realm of tokens, specifically in the realm of treasures. Draw. I mean, it's just, it's pretty crazy. So, red lacks, which is ironic, lacks speed. Okay, let's talk about that. So, red is the one where haste is most prevalent. Red is the one where first strike is most prevalent. And yet, in some way, red does lack a little bit of speed. Now, obviously, they've produced cards like Jessica's Will. Okay, Jessica's Will is a way to kind of give you some ramp in red. What were those old cards? There was a Seething Song, which gave you 5 red for 1 or 3 red for 1. And then there's, so there is some what we might call ramp or speed in red. But in today's game, especially with green, like we talked about earlier, green becoming stronger, a 3 like direct damage spell doing 3 damage is that doesn't matter. It doesn't really kill much. But what it does do, and I would say this, don't underestimate the fact that you can take out the stuff that your opponent sets up in the beginning of the game. It's not just about their big splashy stuff late in the game, but I would say a good use of a direct damage spell to take care of a mana dork, to get rid of something that they're relying on, blowing up someone's soul ring. I mean, it's just and red is good about that. Red is good about destroying artifacts. It's good about getting rid of enchantments. Maybe not as good as green is about getting rid of enchantments, but it's good about doing that kind of stuff. And then you got to think about so next thing, so you get your commander, you figure out your land base. Next thing you do is you want to make sure that you have everything that you like. Everything that is in your deck speaks to what you want your deck to do. So if you're going heavy artifact tokens, make sure that everything that you have in your deck is heavy artifact token. And the reality is that everything doesn't have to do that, but you need to have probably about at least 20 cards, 20, maybe 30 cards that do what you want your deck to do. And then everything else is support. You got to have board wipes. You got to have spot removal. Okay, being able to blow up single target things instead of blowing everything up. And you've got to have those intro pieces, those things that will be good to have out early to help set up for the late game. And so like I said, I'm not going to go through and do that here. But what I want to do is introduce you to this idea that you can go out and find a commander deck or two that share a color. And I mean, especially for those of you who haven't maybe played it in a long time, I have a lot of friends who are like, oh man, I played Commander back when I was in high school. Okay, high school for me was a long time ago, like almost 30 years ago. And so you're what you have now, as far as your like bulk and whatever you're able to build from is limited. So going out and buying two commander decks and combining them is good because it does two things. One, it gives you a potentially good deck you can play with at the time, but it gives you kind of an extra set of the commander staples that you can then begin to start doing your own homebrew with. So you don't have to go out and find another Sol Ring. You don't have to go out and find another command tower. You're going to have some of that stuff already, and that can kind of be the bones around which you build your own deck. And it gives you time. And you're going to have some potential trade bait that you might be able to pull out of one of the decks, because you're going to have some rares inevitably, or some good commons or uncommons that you're not going to use. And so then all of a sudden you have some extra stuff that you can be trading. And so, all right. Well, that's the idea for today. We're going to wrap it up today by opening up a few packs. And let's see if we pull anything. We're going to save this Phyrexia All-Will-Be-One Collector Booster Sample Pack till the very end. We're going to go ahead and open up our two Commander Masters Draft Boosters. See how we do. Here we go. Let's see if we pull anything that would be helpful. That's interesting. Graveborn Token. Decree of Pain. That's a nice foil rare. Ooh, Chromatic Lantern. That's a great commander card, especially if you're playing, I'd say 2-color, 3-color definitely. 2-color, it can help. There's a Nahiri, the Lithomancer. Okay, so guess what? This could go in. Let me get it towards. This could go in this deck that we're thinking about building, contemplating building. Oh yes, this is my 1-drop commander for green. There's a Kiri Fearless Voyager, nice. A Rogue's Passage, we've already seen that. Sol Ring, Darksteel Mutation. We're getting some duplicates of some stuff that are in these decks already. Very nice. Prismatic Lens, Dragon Fodder. Not Dragon Father, Dragon Fodder. Really good card. This is in a standard deck I used to play. Darksteel Ingot. That'd be great especially if you're doing the commander version or the artifact version of this deck. Fall from Favor, Rapacious One, Counterspell, full art. Lotleth Giant, Mearsmith, again, could work really well with this deck that we're trying to build. Carrier Thrall, alright. Last of the Commander Masters packs. Literally the last. I picked the last 2 packs out of the display at the store today for our opening. Now Drowsy spawning a Thrall. Dwarven Hammer could go well in the deck. Vindictive Lich. Carador, Ghost Chieftain. So if you have extra commander staples, hey, you just pulled a Carador, Ghost Chieftain. That could be a really fun deck to build. Think about this. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Okay, so graveyards matter. And then once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard. Seems like a good commander to build next. Brynland, the Moonkraken. Another commander. Tashar, Ancestor's Apostle. I have a Tashar deck. Or I did. I think I changed it. It's not Tashar anymore. Victimize. Cartographer's Hawk. Efficient Construction. Palace Jailer. It's a good card. Fierce Empath. Mearsire. Pollenbright Druid. Tragic Slip. Teamer Battle Rage. Another Dwarven Hammer non-foil this time. Windcaller Avon. Crimson Fleet Commodore. Another card that says you become the monarch. Swift Response. That's spot removal. Destroy target tapped creature. Thorn of the Black Rose. And Haunted Cloak. An equipment. Seems thematic for what we've been opening and talking about today. Alright. Last pack. Magic. No, neither of these have Dockside in them. That would be fantastic. I know one of them has the if your commander is in play, this card is free. I don't know which one it's called. Where is it? Great card. It's the white card, not Clever Concealment. It is Flawless Maneuver. That's the one. No, there's no deflecting SWAT in this either. So that would be, there is a deflecting SWAT in the case. And I thought, man, if I was doing this, I would definitely want to add deflecting SWAT to the deck. Because, yeah. Try to build something like Dwarven Hammer, yes. So, yep. Like I said, there are some good cards in here. All right, here we go. Last pack. Is there a pull tab on this pack? There's not a little groove. Nope, you just gotta open it from the top like normal and hope that you don't rip the cards in half. Oh my goodness. There it goes. Whew. These little sample packs always give me anxiety. It's like, ugh. Alright, so there's 3 cards in here. Let's see what we got. We got our advertisement in the front. We got Sky Hunter Strike Force. As long as you control your commander, other creatures you control have melee. Okay, so we already saw something with melee earlier, right? Yeah. So I guess melee is not something you can stack. Unfortunately, that would be really cool. Boros Reckoner, yes. And Furnace Punisher. That's funny. Look at that. Did they do that on purpose? It's red-white cards. Menace, beginning of each player's upkeep. Furnace Punisher deals 2 damage to that player unless they control 2 or more basic lands. So it punishes people who don't play basics. Interesting. They knew. It's almost like they knew. Oh. All right. Well, neither of those could be our commander, though, but they would be nice additions to the deck, depending on how we decide to go with it. So, if you would, post down in the comments. If you were doing this deck, which direction would you go? What commander would you pick? Are you someone who... Okay, the other thing I would think about is, are you someone who likes to keep track of stuff? Because if you're not someone who likes to keep track of stuff, you probably don't want to play a token deck. Just saying. It can become tedious. And so, think about what you like to do, not what you think necessarily would be most powerful. Sometimes those aren't the same thing. Sometimes they are. But also, just putting that out there too, this playmat is beautiful. If I'm correct, this is a Soul Ring artwork. I forget where it was, what set it was printed in, but really, really nice looking artwork. And so this playmat and some other swag that is up at the store, our tournament organizer that does our Magic stuff, this is amongst the prize stuff that is made available from time to time. And so if you want to get your hands on some really cool Magic Fest Commander sweet looking playmat, come in, get involved. Like I said, the Commander tournament is this weekend. It is Command Fest. You're exactly right. It is. You nailed it. Way to go, Lloyd. All right. So really cool stuff. Encourage you to come in and check out the events that are going on at Comix. If there's anything in this video that we opened, as far as like the 2 packs that we opened, 3 packs, then feel free to let me know, and we'll make sure that stuff gets set aside for you. Otherwise, I think I can just say that this has been fun. It's been real. And it's been, what do you think? Real fun. I hope you all enjoyed it. On Thursday, we're going to be talking about Gym Leader Challenge, some GLC stuff. Talk about the 2 decks that I've created. Talk about what's involved in putting a deck together. Give you some good resources to go look at. Lloyd was a good. He gave me a good introduction to GLC, and it was a lot of fun. I would just encourage you, if you're a Pokemon player, come hang out with us on Thursday, starting at 3 o'clock. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to open a couple packs, and then we're going to call it a day. So, all right. Yeah. Melee, such a weird ability. It's not stackable, unfortunately. Anyway. All right. Y'all have a great day. Bye. Melee says, whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked this combat. So it would get 3 in a 4-player game if you're attacking everyone, which I don't suggest.